Hey, I'm Brook Martin. Tim and I are out here today scouting some of this public ground, gonna pull some cameras. Had some issues with this camera last week. Might have been user error, I'm not sure. I think we got it fixed, but if not, I brought another one. Yeah, season's coming quick, so a lot of work to do today. There's all the pictures we got in a week. What do you think, Tim?
You were just promoting this camera last week, so what do you have to say for yourself?
I think it's user error.
Dude.
I have like 5 of these, and like this is the first one I've had issues with, so.
It was only a matter of time.
What do you think? Throw another one up? I brought another camera. Or just watch this trash. Just bad luck all around.
Pull out, bud.
Alright.
There's not even
a doe here.
Well, I see a doe track and a fawn track. That's about it. Coming through.
We don't need to find does.
They find us.
Yeah. I mean, I do like this area back in here, but I feel like maybe this is not the area. I mean, I guess you can show them there's like a trail going out to the beans, but probably the same doe and fawn walking it every week.
Personally, I think you're just angry subconsciously about your trail camera that you should have just bought a covert.
Just supporting companies that don't support me, right?
Well, on to the next one, eh?
That's alright. We got a bunch of stuff to do today. So Tim and I locked up a decent piece of private that we like have no cameras out in yet, so yep. Whatever. We're out of here.
You win some, you lose some. That actually is a nice track right there.
Get out of here.
That's a good track. I mean, it's not huge, but you know. I mean, it looks like just a doe and a fawn coming through here regularly.
You know what I can see from this track? It's a 2-year-old doe. So
that's the one, yeah.
That's the one the buck's gonna chase during the rut. So if we come back here, like that doe will come through and he'll be behind her.
Yeah, guaranteed.
Yeah.
Had a lot of experience with that doe.
Yeah. For years. All right, where are we putting this?
But the one thing that I have found is that there really isn't a bad spot per se on any of the public land in Iowa. I think the Iowa DNR does some of the best job in the whole country on managing their public land and their deer herd and giving people a good quality hunting experience, whether they're a non-resident coming in every few years or a resident that just has, you know, no private land and this is where they hunt. I mean, this is great, you know. I really haven't been to a spot in Iowa, public land, that I wouldn't consider great hunting. And in fact, a lot of them look very similar, so it's kind of hard to pick and choose which is better than the other. And if you read about hunting Iowa's public land, people do have very good success, even people from out of the state when they come every few years. So I don't know, keep that in mind. You know, maybe you've got some public land where you live and you're overlooking it. You know, it might be a little drive, 30, 40, 50 miles away, but if you've got a quality hunting experience, that's worth it, you know. And you're still saving money because you're not paying for a lease or an outfitter or any of that stuff. So we're back here about, I'd say, a half a mile or more on a small piece of public ground that we think is overlooked. We get back here on the bend and it's exactly what you want. Early successional habitat, hardwood, there's corn on the private, and the DNR planted this clover here. You know, they haven't managed the weeds, but that's not their job to be in here making a perfect food plot. But this is almost a pure stand of clover. And the thing is, how do you hunt this? You know, they set this up for wildlife and food and habitat, but as a hunter, I look at this and I say, well, there's some nice trees we could hunt, but how do you hunt it with the wind direction in your favor and in the deer's favor? If we hunt it with a south wind, it's going to be south, southeast, southwest, and the deer really can't use this to their advantage as much. It's also going to be blowing into these rocky outcrops and probably circling around. If you hunt it with a north wind, it's going to be blowing all in through this CRP. But it's something to keep in mind that you know the deer are going to this area or will be funneling through this area, and you can make your plot and plan, you know, 100 or 200 yards down the road here, you know. So
we were just talking, you know, everyone wants a perfect food plot. They spend tons of money on, you know, herbicides and pesticides and just try to keep everything just perfect. But realistically, like, a perfect food plot gives no cover for a deer. So they're probably not very secure going out there. Like, there's a lot of weeds in this public land plot, but the deer probably feel secure coming through here, you know, throughout the day just because there is cover. And like, this would be considered a weed here, and you would want to spray this, but they're, you know, browsing on it. I mean, it's all browsed by deer. So realistically, it's just extra food, and it's a variety which deer like. So just kind of a neat thing to observe here and just touch on. So don't spray your weed. So this spot here that we just came across really sticks out to us for a couple different reasons. We just previously talked about the clover plot that's planned under by the DNR and the CRP. And then you got basically, you know, hardwoods here bordering right up against corn. So there's several trails factoring into corn. And then there's big buck side of, you know, that tells you the previous year that a buck's been through here. Like, this is where a buck travels, especially during the rut, to, you know, mark his sign and everything. But it's kind of neat because there's a river here, or I don't know if I should call it a river, but, you know, a small stream or something. And I don't know, we could easily access this and get in clean.
dude,
What?
looks good, bud. Well, we're starting to get into some Western hunting tactics. This particular piece is public, and it's basically like a CRP or set aside. And there's just this little tiny corner here of some trees, and maybe 2 of them are big enough for a tree stand. But it butts up to a green field, cornfield. We just saw a nice buck crossing, probably a 2.5-year-old 8-pointer, and a doe as well. But this has just been set aside almost in a preserve type of management method, where it's just kind of, they're not really doing anything with it. And the field's starting to grow over. They're starting to get some cedars and some other woody vegetation growing up through there. And so it's kind of, I think, going to be a very productive spot. What do you think, Brooke?
Yeah, I mean, the best way I could describe is if you ever hunted Kansas or thought about hunting Kansas, it kind of sets up like a lot of Kansas prairie land, I guess. I mean, would you say that's pretty fair?
Yeah, and
then this just,
you know, there's a lot of tracks in here. We don't know what's in here other than the 2 deer we saw.
Yeah.
All these little these little holes in the ground are from deer tracks. So we just want to
putting the old Moultrie, we're moving away from the Tascos. Just kidding.
Still gonna use them, bud.
Yeah, we actually got some.
And there is a trail right here. You know, these deer just naturally gravitate towards these kinds of things, these edges, just on the inside of this little patch of trees here, on the edge of the alfalfa, on the edge of the corn, on the edge of the CRP. They just gravitate towards these areas, and it's a pretty simple process, you know. They're a creature of edge, and that's all you really need to know.
Everyone talks about buck beds, but what they don't know is there's actually like buck castles, and we found one. Like probably 3 or 4 bucks laying there together. Stay out of the sun. It's a nice spot.
Is it vlog or vlog, you know? But I'm gonna do a review on the Elite Ritual. That'll be a separate video. And we also filmed the narrative, I guess you should say, or could say, for a video that I'm gonna release in a few weeks here, probably a month, called American Dream. It's basically my first year in Iowa, and I had a great season last year. Several kills will be on it, including a 163-inch whitetail, officially scored Pope and Young, 12-pointer. Biggest buck I've ever seen in my whole entire life. I was fortunate enough to get an arrow in. So you're gonna wanna stay tuned, folks. All right. Well, it's the day before Sunday, and I don't know where Brook is. He said he wanted to sleep all day today and not do anything deer hunting related. And I was pretty surprised, you know. It's not like him, but no, I'm just kidding. I slept all day today. He didn't. But I'm in this little dry area. You know, when it floods and stuff like that, this area right here becomes water when it rains. When it doesn't rain, it kind of just becomes this little green area, and there's actually a lot of good stuff in here, like skunk cabbage and some other just grass type vegetation. The other thing too is this time of the year it's really hard to find any good sign. The deer aren't scraping or rubbing, and so you're kind of just going off based off of what you think. And a spot like that where there's mud, you can find the tracks that you're looking for. And there was some in there, but I mean, what am I gonna do? Clip in a picture of a track? I mean, it's really not all it's cracked up to be. So I'm gonna hang a camera along this bean field, which is the same field where I killed my deer next to last year. And I learned a lot about Iowa. These deer love these waterways and little breaks between fields, and in the Northeast we're used to hunting deer in the timber and not in these little, I'll show you here in a second, not in these little just strips of woody vegetation, and they just lay up in there. They don't need to move. And it's just the perfect conditions for them to not get disturbed. The only people out here could be a farmer or somebody, you know, I guess walking around, but who's gonna walk around in a bean field? I guess I will. So here's what I'm talking about. You just see that. Just real quick before my battery dies, I found this little hole in the ground, and I'm putting my camera right alongside this hole because these deer are, deer are lazy, right? So instead of walking around this point behind me where this blowdown is, they're just gonna cut through the fields from here around this tree and go into this field. It's basically the same field, but they're gonna cut right through here. You can see a faint trail, and hopefully we get a slammer on there, or as Brook would say, a hammer. But that's about it for the weekend. Time to cook some dinner. As you can see, field, little trail coming through here. There's a hole in the ground, so they're gonna walk around that. There's more trees back in there, so this is the path of least resistance. And they're gonna go into this field and continue on their journey. And you can see there's browse going on here.